White police officer being found not guilty earlier today of murder in the 2011 fatal shooting of a black driver following a very high-speed chase. The ex-cop, Jason Stockley, was charged with first-degree murder after the shooting, and 24-year-old Anthony Lamar Smith 5 times followed. He was shot after a high-speed chase. The 2011 incident was caught on police dash cam video. We'll be airing that throughout the show tonight. Stockley argued in court that he felt he was in imminent danger because he says he saw Lamar Smith holding a gun. A gun was in fact found in Smith's car, but it only had Stockley's DNA on it, leading the prosecution to claim that it was planted by the former police officer with no evidence. No jury involved in this case in today's verdict because Stockley opted for a bench trial. Joining us now on the ground with the very latest from St. Louis, our own Mike Tobin. Mike, what's going on?
Hey, Sean, let me bring in Kevin Straub. Kevin here is a 3-time convicted felon, 2 for heroin, 1 for assault. And Kevin's out here, and the backbone of his argument is he gets convicted and the cop doesn't. Now, how does that apply?
I feel like the evidence in the guy's case was totally overwhelming. The evidence in my case was like a peon compared to what he had in his evidence.
What's the evidence that you have a problem with?
The evidence is premeditated by him saying that he's going to kill this motherfucker.
Okay, wait, cut your break, because that is actually what was said on the tape. But try to keep it clean if you can.
That guy? Yeah, but then I mean, at the same time, it's like he doesn't even use his license-issued weapon. He used his own personal weapon, assault rifle. Mind you, that assault rifle or FNN or P9 or anything could do more dangerous harm to a person than using a regular 9mm or, you know, I mean, different style weapons.
So, Sean, in answer to your question, he was convicted for heroin possession. He says it was an unjustified case. But to get back to the questioning, what do you hope to get done here tonight?
I mean, we just basically trying to still show the world that it's totally unjust. It's not a fair situation whenever it comes to black folks, period. Like I say, I'm a 3-time convicted felon. I was recently just in front of a judge trial, had a judge trial, and mind you, I'm a I've been to the penitentiary, all type of stuff. So, but yeah, I just had a year ago stood in front of a judge, had a judge trial on a possession of heroin, the same thing that this guy is basically killed over, which they say people supposed to have guns. I'm totally innocent.
When you ran with that crowd, did you arm yourself?
I mean, what I'm saying is, I was free-cased in Ferguson, Missouri in 2011. I had a witness just like you, a person I never ever met, said, hey, this guy is about to pull up. He's got heroin, whoop, wop, wop, all this on him. And when they pull up on me, my wife, and my son. And they pull us out the car. About 5-10 people have guns, everything.
And you contend that if you were white, that wouldn't have happened?
No. I mean, what I'm saying is that it was not fair. They used information I never was able to actually.
Go ahead, Sean.
Hey, Mike, it's a little hard to believe that somebody, is going to claim on national TV. Did they find heroin on him? Is he claiming they planted heroin on him?
Information that was not fair in my case.
Right. Do you claim that the heroin was planted on you?
It was. It was totally planted. Say, for instance, if you was the person that's saying, hey, this guy about to pull up, but I never met you.
Let me ask you this. As a felon, we're out here tonight. There could be trouble tonight. That could have some serious consequences for you. Is it worth it for you to be out here?
It is, because we making a statement. Like I said, the police officer admitted that he did not have any probable cause when he pulled up on me and pulled my family out the car. He said that he did not have they say, do you have any?
And the backbone, you're saying the white cop gets off, you don't get off because you're black.
Right. Basically is, I'm a 3-time convicted felon. It's so.
Hey, Mike, let me ask him this question.
Do whatever they want. Everybody have their own.
Okay, Sean's got a question for you from New York. Go ahead, Sean.
Did he not see the high-speed chase of Anthony Lamar Smith? Does he not realize when somebody doesn't stop for the cops and somebody doesn't listen to the cops that he's putting every single person whose house he drove by in jeopardy?
Have you seen the video? Do you understand when there was the high-speed chase?
Yes.
When Lamar Smith smashed the cop car, he was putting other people's lives in jeopardy.
As well as the cops.
As well as the cops.
As well as the cops.
So therefore,
they
to defend himself.
But what I'm saying is, they went at a high speed. The police officer went at a high speed
to chase him.
But they put other people's lives. What if you was coming out of an intersection?
You're saying that it was justified.
Missouri have a right not. They have a law to where they can't chase to pursue a chase that's going to cause people's harm.
Policy. Yeah. He had the AK-47.
AK-47. He wasn't in, one thing for sure, he wasn't in fear of his life, because if he was in fear of his life, he wouldn't have pursued the chase. If he say that he was...
Okay, and thank you very much. And we're going to walk around here a little bit, and I can tell you from observing the scene, you do smell the marijuana coming out tonight. You got a lot of people walking around. At the moment, it seems like they've just milling about. Can I ask you a question? Hey, buddy, can I ask you a question?
No, I'm with SC.
All right. So we're walking around. Here's somebody who's out. Could I ask you a question?
What is it that you need?
Well, what are you trying to get done tonight?
Well, I'm just out here supporting the movement. I'm not trying to get anything specifically done other than to have our voices heard.
You're supporting the Black Lives Matter movement.
I'm not supporting the Black Lives Matter movement. I'm supporting a human movement.
Okay. All right, fair enough. And you find that there was injustice in this ruling?
Of course there was injustice in this ruling.
All right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Did you watch the video, by the way?
I did.
And what do you think of it?
I feel that the judge had a responsibility not only to the community, but to set a precedent for the world. And that
What
is
about
to
Anthony
show
Lamar
that
Smith?
he can be fair. And I don't feel that he was fair in his judgment at all.
What about Anthony Lamar Smith? Doesn't he have some culpability? He ran police cars, at least. If you want to make the argument that the gun was planted, you still know he was using the car as a lethal weapon.
Well, I'm going to ask you a question. Did he deserve to die?
If he was using the car as a lethal weapon?
Well, if you're going to say that Anthony Stockley was violating police policy, and he's not going to be culpable for a murder, then how is it that you can overlook the fact that Smith was violating but didn't deserve to die?
According to the judge's ruling, one of the wounds in Mr. Smith, right here in his torso, could have only been, he could have only made that open to the gun, exposed.
I can't hear.
The judge
Get out.
has already made his decision. At this point,
I can't
we have
hear.
to accept it. You and I
There you
going back and forth is not going to.
There you go. All right. So she says she doesn't want to debate the. Do you still have my audio, Sean?
No need for me to debate the fact.
All right, I got you. You're back. All right, thank you so much. Mike, we're going to get back to you in just a minute. Also, on the ground in St. Louis is Will Carr. Will, what's going on there?
Hey, Sean, we're in the middle of this crowd, and I want to show you right in the middle. In the past, I'd say 2-3 minutes, we've seen 2 or 3 American flags be burned here. They're holding them up. They're showing them on fire. I think they're all out now. Here, I want to walk over real quick and show you, Sean. Well, they're not letting me through, but you have a burned flag down there on the ground. Now, if you come back down here, Dave, I'm joined here by Bobby. Bobby, tell me why you decided to come out tonight.
Well, for one, I came down here to unite everybody down here. For all is one. Everybody come down here.
Do you agree with burning the American flag like we just saw them do it?
I mean, yes and no. It had to be done, but no, it's not appropriate. But at the end of the day, it stands for something. It means something.
Why do you think it had to be done?
Well, for one, we got too many police brutalities. I was a victim of it as well.
In what way?
Mike Brown, my cousin.
Mike Brown is your cousin?
On my daddy's side, yes.
Are you from Ferguson?
I stayed over there. I went to school over there.
So you're from this area?
I'm from St. Louis, born and raised.
When did you decide to come out tonight?
I've been out here all day.
And have you been following this case, the ins and outs of it?
way.
What did you disagree with about the judge's statement? What stuck out to you personally?
Well, for one, the conviction. He didn't get convicted after he was on camera, after there was evidence. How? How can we keep on letting this happen? How?
And what, in your mind, is shutting down streets and doing marches for 11, 12 hours, how does that help with everything that you see as an injustice?
I got a question to ask you. How do you feel that don't affects the community, affects the world?
Well, the question is, why don't they cover our community fairly? Most of the white news media do not cover our community fairly. So the result, that's part of the problem.
So what do you hope to see come out of this, and what do you think? What else do you think could be done?
I think change should happen.
No,
change will happen.
You think it has to come in the political process?
Yes, we can.
Hell no.
Yes, we can.
Hell no. Political process is broken.
Sean, a divergence of opinions there, but you can see that they're out here. They've destroyed several flags, and it's really turned into much of a block party out here. They're dancing, they're laughing to a certain extent. Earlier, before the sun went down, we saw things get pretty volatile between the protesters and the police. Since the sun went down, we've seen them march for several miles across St. Louis, but for the most part, this has been peaceful, Sean.
All right, thanks so much. We appreciate it. We're going to check in with you all throughout the hour tonight. Really scary situation there, but if it's turning into a block party, that's certainly better than what it could be. Joining us now from St. Louis, Fox News contributor Kevin Jackson. Kevin, you have been there all week. It's really scary. You said that you felt that there were people that were actually preparing for some type of response tonight all throughout the week. Tell us what you know.
Yeah, so I got in early Monday morning, Sean, for a personal business as well as some other business here. And as I moved about the city, it was a palpable tenseness of the city. And I had honestly forgotten what was about to happen, started listening to friends of mine that I do hits on their radio show and started hearing about the Stockley verdict. And then as I went to restaurants and various places with friends, people started to ask, hey, you're going to be around on Friday, and so on and so forth. And being that I was a management consultant in the town, friends started reaching out to me on social media talking about, are you going to still be there? We've evacuated our employees. They're all coming home, et cetera. So you could feel the tension of the city. I was seeing people, I saw members of the National Urban League. I'm not saying they're here to do anything except to protest, but you started seeing the people that had been flown in. And then as I started talking to people, it got really interesting. And there's a lot of observations I could give you. I'll let you sort of direct what you want to know. But what I found most interesting was that it was a lot of what I would call millennial whites who were protesting. And I think it was a mixed bag. It was either the trust fund babies or the people that just wanted to say, I was here when history was made. And I think a lot of that history, and I do believe that people, Sean, want to see something happen tonight. So it's still young.
Well, it's still young, and you got to hope and pray that everyone's going to be okay here.
Absolutely.
And, you know, as Mike Tobin reported, he smells weed in the air and people are smoking. You just never know what's going to happen. This guy has a history of unlawful use of a weapon, stealing, drug possession, driving with a revoked license. Let's now go, we do have the dash cam video, and then we have another video, I believe it was from a building nearby, that actually, you know, when you see it, this is the beginning of it right here. It's a very long video, goes on for a pretty lengthy period of time, and you see the high-speed chase that takes place. This is when he's just taken off right here. The cops get in their car, and then they go from there, and at one point the cop hits a tree in the middle of this. And then beyond that, you know, when the finally stops, why don't you pick it up from there and explain what you saw, and especially with the cop taking a gun, and this was in the other video, not in the cop video, into the police car.
Are you talking to me, Sean?
Yeah, I'm talking to you. I want you to explain. I know you can't see it, but you've seen the video a lot.
Oh, yeah, I've looked at the video. Well, the first thing I would tell people to notice about the video was how many people could have been killed by the guy in the high-speed chase. And I heard one of the people comment that said, well, the cop shouldn't have been chasing him or whatever. But at that point, the police officer saw him as a menace. And so what happened in the video, you can't see what everybody's talking about with this weapon that supposedly was planted. You cannot see that in the video. What you see are two police officers who get out. He engages the Smith on the other side of the vehicle, and you can see he's talking to him and giving him a chance to say something, and then suddenly the shots ring out. But and I know a lot of people, and rightfully so, the cop said, you know, we're going to get this guy, and he used the word MF to get him. But you're talking about a guy who was in an excited, it was an excited utterance, but he also knew that he was on video. But what I think people are missing, Sean, in this whole thing is what we always come back to, or should come back to, is, and you alluded to it, what was Smith's responsibility? Should he have gotten out of his car when he was, found at the chicken place and surrendered? We overlook that, and then everybody looks at what happens at the end game. Well, he did try to hit cops with his car. That alone allowed the police to use lethal force. So look, I'm not trying to exonerate these guys. That's been done. The judge has already done that. But for people to now want to backseat drive this thing and again put police officers in the line of fire, so to speak, I find ridiculous.
I find it ridiculous, too. But let's go to the shooting part in particular. The shooting takes place. Then we got into the whole question in this particular case. Putting aside his background, he takes the cops on this long, high-speed chase, putting everybody at risk in the entire community. Okay. Then they get to that point. He's claiming that a gun. They didn't find Lamar Smith's fingerprints on the gun, but they found the cops' fingerprints on the gun. And the prosecution was trying to lay out the case that, in fact, well, that means he didn't really have the gun in the car. But the other video shows the cop taking the rifle out of the car and putting it in the back of the police car. Is that not correct?
That is correct. And look, I do understand how people want to look at the DNA evidence or whatever. And again, I didn't see, I have no knowledge of it. We can't see that in the video. But the judge was obviously able to look at whatever the evidence was. And so there's going to be speculation on that. And probably rightfully so. But I still think we've got to balance this and also look at the long-term ramifications of what we're doing here, especially in the city of St. Louis, the city where I live, that has shrunk from I believe 860,000 people in 1950 to 318,000 people today. Sean, we had major companies who were moving their employees, 4,000 or 5,000 people for one company, and certainly thousands at another and hundreds at others, who were moving their employees out because they feared for the safety of their employees. We had businesses boarding up. It looked like Hurricane Harvey or Irma was going to hit St. Louis, all because people were threatening to burn this city down.
Yeah. All right. Stay right there. We'll get back to Kevin. We have Dana Lash. We have Geraldo Rivera and more of Mike Tobin and our reporters on the ground. Protests breaking out now tonight in St. Louis following the acquittal of an ex-cop on a first-degree murder charge. We'll go back to the reporters on the ground and much more coverage straight ahead tonight right here on this busy breaking news edition of Hannity. Fox News alert: protest tonight in St. Louis after the acquittal of a former white police officer charged with first-degree murder following a 2011 shooting of a black man. Live in the middle of all these protests tonight, Will Carr. Will, what's happening now?
Well, Sean, they're continuing to move through the streets here on the central west end of St. Louis. This is a very popular hangout, trendy area for St. Louis. And this is an area that's not prepared for these types of protests. You mind if we talk to you about why you're out here tonight?
Oh, no, you can talk to somebody else.
Okay. Can we talk to you about why you're out here tonight?
I'm out here because I feel awful about the death of Mr. Smith.
And what made you decide to come?
He was killed because he was a black man.
And what made you decide to come out for this specifically?
I want to show my support for my community.
Have you been keeping up with the details of the case?
Yes.
What specifically did you disagree with the judge's decision?
I respect that the judge is pro-defense. I'm just disappointed that the same leniency isn't shown to all criminal defendants who are black and brown.
Does it bother you that Smith drove away and hit the police car and ended up in the chase to begin with?
That doesn't justify killing him.
What do you think that
Will,
a
I got a
march like
question
this
for her. She
does to
Will,
further...
can you hear me?
I think
Hold
it
on one
brings
sec.
good community
Hold on one
together.
second. I have one question. What's that? Go ahead, Sean.
Black Lives Matter, members of that group were shouting and screaming, "What do we want dead cops? When do we want them now?" Why would she carry a sign of a group that says that?
So I want to ask you, you're carrying the Black Lives Matter sign. The group has at times called for officers to be killed. Do you agree with that?
I'm sorry, you said the group's called for officers to be killed. I don't support killing anyone, but what I do understand is why communities are so outraged.
So why did you decide to carry the Black Lives Matter sign tonight?
Because Black Lives Matter, and people don't always acknowledge that.
And we've heard that from so many people out here, Sean. There's so many different messages here, and tonight it's one of unity, whereas earlier today it was really a message of anger, where we saw so many people jumping on one police car, smashing in the windshield. 13 people were arrested, 4 officers were hurt. Tonight, it's really more of the chanting, the marching. We've had some singing out here as people continue to walk through the streets of St. Louis, Sean.
All right, thanks, Will, so much for being with us. We really do appreciate it. And also on the ground tonight, our own Mike Tobin. Mike, what's going on where you are? You're at a different part of the protest.
Yeah, just a lot of marching, and thus far it's manifested as a big old block party. I'll give you a quick look around. You got a lot of people, and you can see, like, this guy over here. Obviously, he came out tonight with a helmet on, expecting some kind of trouble. You see people with the different gear on, the face masks. They're kind of anticipating what we saw earlier, pepper spray, gas, what you will. Here's some people. Can I ask you a couple questions? First of all, all right, they say they're not anticipating, Mike. Come here. All right, what are you after? What are you anticipating?
Honestly, this protest has been a success so far. The only thing that would count more of a success is if we actually had action from it. But no. Yeah, you should. Yeah.
Okay, the only reason I'm wearing this mask is I'm asthmatic. Okay? So that's all it is. In case something were to happen, I just want to be safe. That's all it is.
All right, what are you trying to get done here tonight?
We're just trying to, like, represent and be here and stand in solidarity with all the other black people that's been shot and killed by the police.
Now, in terms of this particular case you're demonstrating about, you know Mr. Smith rammed the vehicle into the police. The judge didn't support the contention that the weapon was planted. So what are your problems with the facts in this case? Why should the police officer be convicted?
Okay, so the cop, while he was driving, said we are going to kill this bleeper. Right? And then when he got there, he went up to him and shot him 5 times at the door.
Right.
There's no need for that. He then goes back to the car, grabs something mysterious, and goes back to the car and sits down in the seat of the car.
All right. So, I mean, the judge obviously didn't support the contention that the weapon was planted. Now, you were chiming in from the background. Let's hear.
I don't have anything to say.
All right. You don't have anything you want to say. What were you going to say, Sean?
What company are you with?
I'm with Fox News Channel.
A lot of these guys there are hiring.
I'm sorry, they're shouting me down. What'd you say, Sean?
No, I see the ladies put their camera in front of your camera there, or putting her hand in front of your camera.
Yeah.
I just want to know, what exactly, what evidence are they citing here? I mean, we watched the high-speed chase. We saw the wrist he put these cops under, ramming the cops. We see another video of the cop actually that was not dash cam, that actually he's putting the gun in the back of his car. Are you okay there, Mike?
Yeah. Here, you want to talk? You want to make a point?
Yeah, right.
All right. What's your problem with the evidence?
Hold on. Whoa.
What?
I don't know if this your charge. Yeah, that's my charge.
So what's your problem with the evidence?
My problem with the evidence is that it's a blatant.
Let him make his point. Go ahead.
It's a blatant disrespect to the people when we see clearly on video evidence of murder. Okay. Anytime.
What's the video evidence that makes you say
the gun in the car?
Excuse me?
What about the gun in the car?
What about the gun in the car? Evidence show that the gun in the car belonged to the officers. Nobody's DNA was on that gun but Jason Stockley's.
Now, the expert witnesses who testified, absence of Mr. Smith's DNA on that weapon doesn't mean Smith didn't own that weapon or didn't hold that weapon at some point.
The only DNA that was found on that gun was Jason Stockley's.
That's accurate.
Was not is accurate.
But absence. Come on. That's uncalled.
Not cool.
Touch me again. No. Touch me again. Make it. You want to make a. You want
All right, Mike. We'll come back to you. Oh, come on.
Right.
Really?
All right, we got to go. We got to go, Sean.
Hey, Mike, you get out of there. Get out of there.